Hello YouTube, Dave here again. So I've been thinking a lot recently about miniatures games, particularly with Dungeons and Dragons, and looking back at my boxes of really poorly organized and sorted chainmail miniatures, and I also was thinking about the 2003 product line of the D&D miniatures game, which had the plastic pre-painted random miniatures. And I can't help but think that, I wasn't really into using miniatures prior to these games coming out. And these games helped, in my opinion, really push the sales of minis. And it feels like it's something that really is kind of missing now from 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. And I don't think it would take a whole lot. I mean, even from the beginning when 5th edition first came out, they still had their Icons of the Realm starter set along with their Tyranny of Dragons booster packs. So the thing is that I don't know necessarily how well those sell. I don't get to see sales figures. I know that most of the stores where I live don't tend to carry much of them, and it seems like nowadays they really, the one store that I know that has them has had the same number of booster packs on their shelf for about the last 3 or 4 months. So I don't know if it's something that's necessarily that popular, at least where I live. Now, there's a lot of factors that kind of contribute to that. One is the price tag for a lot of these booster packs. So like the one that I have here for Storm King's Thunder, this was I think about $23, $24, and you only got 4 miniatures inside and literally nothing else. And I just remember when I was making that video how much of a disappointment that was and how basically ripped off I felt. I mean, yeah, you get one huge figure, but to me that just wasn't enough to justify the amount of money I was spending on one huge figure and 3 medium-sized figs. One of which was a Hellhound and the other was a Toad. So it just was a really, in my opinion, these are really, really poor products. Now, WizKids does also put out a non-randomized line of miniatures, where they've got their Nolzar's Marvelous miniatures, and this is a really, really cool product. But again, there's room for improvement, and it doesn't necessarily take a whole lot. All it really would involve is having a stat card included with the miniature, like D&D Minis did back in 2003. So when you look at this product line, each of the miniatures had a card that went along with it, and the card had the miniature stats for the miniatures game on one side and the role-playing statistics for the monster on the other side. So it was useful for both of those things. What I would like to see is WizKids, or Wizards of the Coast, through WizKids, create a modern-day tabletop miniatures game, skirmish level like they had before, so not like massive armies or units or anything like that, but to just, realize that we're putting these miniatures out anyway. The price is a bit high for what you're getting, so why not throw some stat cards in there? And why not just, have a free PDF online that you can download for the rules? And then you're getting some more use, and, people like myself might feel more inclined to pick up some of the randomized boosters now if we think that we'd be able to use it in an actual, miniatures game. It's just a thought, really. So this is going to be a pretty quick video, but I was just wondering what you guys thought about that. I mean, personally, I would love to see the Dungeon Command series come back with the factions and the non-randomized miniatures and the cards and all that stuff. I loved that game, and I would really, really, really want to see that make a comeback. But if it doesn't, then what's the harm in creating just a rudimentary set of miniatures rolls and just create stat cards to go with the miniatures that you're putting in these products? You can still have the non-randomized ones have the same stat card in there, and that way for players who want something specific, then you can get something specific. You can buy goblins and hobgoblins and bugbears and an owlbear or whatever, a beholder. You could buy those things, take the stat cards out, and create, your army or warband around it. If you don't want to have the factions like you do in the Dungeon Command set, then you can just kind of go back to what they had for factions in D&D Minis, which was just based on alignment. Or you could even have it based by things like savage humans, savage humanoids, humanoids, reptilian human. Like there's a lot of ways that you could sort of create factions, or even not even worry about factions. Just have point limits for your war bands, and just go out and have some fun. And again, it would be really simple in my opinion. Just have a PDF that you can get off of either the WizKids website or the Wizards of the Coast website that just tells you how you can use these miniatures, what rules you would use for the game, and have the stat cards supported in this large box that really just doesn't have enough in it for the price that you're paying for. Have the stat card included with the non-randomized miniatures as well, because there's really no reason why you can't have them in both. Have the ones that you want to get, non-randomized, and buy a few random packs, see if you can put something together. I think it would make perfect sense. You could also tie it into things like your dungeon tile set. So instead of having specific terrain for the miniatures game, you can just say, if you pick up the dungeon tile sets, you can kind of create some sample battlefields and have that as a PDF as well online. Just have it, as part of the rule setup. Just say, here is the Dungeon Tiles Wilderness Reincarnated set. Here are some sample battlefields that we've created using the miniatures, or not the miniatures, using the tiles in that set. I just think it would be a great way to sort of breathe some extra life into these miniatures and get a little bit more use out of them besides just using them for the role-playing game, especially for the randomized one. To have sort of support for a miniatures game on top of it, I think would be a good thing. And again, I don't see it taking a lot of effort necessarily to do. I mean, you don't have to create specific abilities just for the miniatures game like they did back with this set. You can just basically have them more or less like their regular role-playing counterparts, just stripped down. So, their hit points are divisible by 5, for example, like they did with D&D Minis. Or you could even have them like in Chainmail, where you had health like 1, 2, 3, 4, and anything that had 5 or 10 health was a beast. And I think it worked out to 10 hit points in the role-playing game equaled 1 hit point in the miniatures game. But it's just something that you can do easily, and like I said, don't make fancy abilities, don't do anything like that. If you want to have fancy abilities, have them in the free PDF as like commander options, and designate one of your units to be the commander, and they get these benefits. It's just a thought that I had, so let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and if you'd be on board for something like that, and how you think it should take, what form it should take. Like I said, for me, it's the free PDF rule set online, just a stat card included with your miniatures, be it randomized or non-randomized, and utilize the terrain options that Wizards of the Coast already has out for 5th edition. So your tile sets, your adventure grid, whatever you want it to be. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'll see you next time.